Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Bite-Sized Brilliance Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. April Darley, and today I want to talk about feeling like you have been beaten down by life. Woo! That can happen to all of us. This human experience is not for the weak. That is for sure. Recently, I reconnected with a friend of mine from med school. We weren't in the same class, but we ran in similar circles and we had a lot of interaction and we just love each other. And then after I graduated, we went to work at the same place. So we were med school friends and then coworkers. And we were talking about this time in our lives and we had a slightly different perspective on it. And that is always the way. When you have two different people with the same experience, how they view that experience will never be the same. And that's because no two brains are alike. We're like snowflakes that way. Everybody's brain is going to look at a situation and put their own spin on it based on your lived experience, your pain, your trauma, if you want to call it that. But we look at things and interpret it in a certain way based on our individual brain patterning. It is bespoke. And so I was talking about how med school was the hardest chunk for me. I lovingly describe it as 4 years of boot camp, where it was just pounding and stress and hardship and over and over and over. And when I got out of it, I wasn't the same. I am not the same person that I was before I went in. And for her, it was that mutual job that we shared because that was fast paced. It was a roller coaster, lots of drama on that job. And for her, that was the thing. That was the beatdown, was that experience. But we both agreed after these really important chunks of our lives, we were changed forever. And it can take you years sometimes to restabilize from that. And when you find yourself in a hard section of life, you do start to get this hunger for nostalgia. You start to think back at these other periods of your life and go, I was so much more XYZ, or I liked my life so much more when this was going on. And that's normal, that's natural. Some of that can be escapism or nostalgia or spending too much time in the past, but there are some very good examples of why doing that can be particularly helpful for you if you're trying to create the next chapter of your life. In 2020, the word pivot got overused. Everyone was, we're going to pivot. It's important that we pivot. We need to stay alive and pivot. So I'm not going to use the word pivot, but you want to do a shift. And right now, the world is almost like in the same place of the pandemic with AI and technology. There's a lot of economic uncertainty. There's wars out there in the world. And people are being asked, people get this feeling that they need to change. Things cannot go on as they were before. So you're in this weird void space where the future has not been created, but you know the systems of the past can't go on. Something has to change. When you want to create the next version of yourself, that is some part within your control. You can control how you think, how you feel a lot of times, how you respond when you have the right training so that it becomes helpful, not harmful. A lot of things are not in your control, but how you respond still can be. And I teach my clients how to do that in the Bespoke Brain System. If you would like to learn more, then go to aprildarley.com. I'll drop that link in the show notes and schedule a free consultation to learn how to use your brain to its best competitive advantage. But also, you're going to learn to let go of things from your past, these old stories, these old identities that you have outgrown or that you feel the need to shift. So in 2025 and 2026, I don't think the word is pivot, but I do think the word is shift because a new reality is emerging. And you do get to help create that reality for yourself, even if some of these large world events are outside of your control. The 5 inches between your ears, largely, you can control that. But what's working against you are these stories from the past, these painful memories that you might hold on to, old identities, and your brain's natural ability to fight change. So, why does it do that? You know logically that you want to change or you need to change, maybe both. You think you have sufficient motivation to do it because you want to get out of this yucky, painful state. But for some reason, you find it difficult. You might start, it's like take one step forward, and then it feels like 2 steps back. That's not your fault. Your brain is just resisting change for a few different reasons. There's a very popular saying in business. It says, a confused mind always says no. Your brain runs like a business. You are the CEO of your brain business. And we procrastinate a lot because a task feels monumental. Not only that, so that's one thing of how we procrastinate. Something feels too large. Now, it can also feel unsafe because the brain doesn't necessarily care what you want when it comes to safety. It cares what you're familiar with. And if you are familiar with an automatic pilot routine, whatever you do to change that routine becomes automatically unsafe because you are doing something different. You're trying to plug in a new programming, and the brain is designed to fight that a little bit. One reason the brain is fighting that is because the automatic pilot programs are very energy efficient. It takes very little energy to run those things in the background because your habits, these programs, are things that you've done thousands of times, and your brain is like, yeah, easy. I could do that in my sleep, literally. But when you are trying to change your identity, change some aspect about yourself, make an improvement, you're asking the brain to do something different. And it doesn't like that because it takes more energy and more attentional focus to do that than it does to run an old standby program. So it's very important when you're trying to make these changes that you are specific and intentional about where you put your attention to train the brain to see opportunities instead of fear-based stuff. Because we also have negativity bias. It's a survival trait. Your brain is going to try to focus on everything that could go wrong or that is going wrong in the world far more than it sees opportunities or what could go right. So part of that intention and attention is to point your brain in a direction that you actually want to go, knowing that you're going to be dragging a piece of it kicking and screaming behind you. That's normal. And it doesn't mean that you're failing or that you're not good enough or that you can't do it. It just means you are repatterning your very life. You are repatterning your identity, repatterning your habits, repatterning the way you interact with the world. That's no small thing, my friends. So you want to give yourself a bit of grace when it comes to these different steps of figuring out what you want. If you feel like you've lost yourself, lost some aspect of yourself, it isn't gone forever. You can resurrect that peace, that quality that you had before life's beatdown took you out. You stand back up and go, I really loved this about myself. I'm going to be more intentional to bring these qualities forward. Because again, your brain will focus on wherever you point it. Wherever your focus goes, your energy flows. So bringing these things you loved about yourself, that you feel, these qualities that you feel worked, that helped your life be better. If they have fallen by the wayside by a decade, by years, by a really long time ago, you're going to have to bring them back. And that is going to take some of that new energy because it's no longer a habitual program. You haven't run it for years. just know the brain's going to fight you a little bit on that. And you might find yourself slipping back into old habits, old ways of thinking, old ways of feeling. You have control over that leash. And it is a lot like training a dog. I had a dog I rescued. He was a street dog, had never had a home before. I got him from this friend I recently connected with, funnily enough. And he had no idea how to do the leash thing. So teaching him to walk on a leash, he was pulling. He was also kind of a reactive dog because it was survival out there on the streets. And that dog pulled me down so many times the first year I had him until we worked our system out. But if you don't hold control over that leash, you get pulled. You get pulled along, you get pulled down. And that is the same thing about not being intentional with your thoughts and emotions and not paying attention with where they're taking you, because it might be more of the suck, more of the old disempowering stories. And you will have to relearn sometimes that you do have power. You have the power to choose your own direction. You have the power to choose your thoughts and choose your feelings when you catch them on that automatic pilot. I call it a runaway train. And being intentional with your focus. This is going to help you improve your life and to get back into these spaces, these periods of time where you actually enjoyed. Now, the world has changed and we can't ever go back 15, 20 years ago, 2 years ago, because the truth is you are a different person. And there's this line in Alice in Wonderland, and I'm going to mangle it because this is paraphrasing, but it's, I can't go back to yesterday. I'm a totally different person. It's true. Even if you tried to go back and recreate everything from some amazing point in your life, it won't go quite the same way because you have moved along with your life experiences. The world has moved along. Nothing stayed still. And so it is about bringing the pieces you want back while also simultaneously letting these painful pieces go. It's a juggling act. And if you feel like nobody trained me to juggle, what I do? Well, that's where people like me come in, is to teach you how to juggle the present, the past, to create the future that you really want for yourself, and to be flexible enough to lean into life's rhythmic flow, that nothing stays the same forever. You can't want a garden to grow but resent the rain it takes to get there. And it's about unwinding these painful patterns, unwinding these rigid mental emotional patterns that sometimes we create for ourselves. It's like an armor or a shell to be safe. We think we're making ourselves safe if we stay in this small container, but sometimes that is impeding our flow or our flexibility. So sometimes you need to learn how to expand the container to hold more, but sometimes you need to just get rid of the container altogether. And it's about that discernment of when to know the difference. And if that is a lot of moving parts and pieces for you, I get it. It's because no one showed you how to think. You naturally have thoughts and feelings, but if you haven't been trained how to manage the whole system you've created of thinking and feeling, then yeah, you get a lot of runaway trains. You worry about other people's judgment a lot. You worry about, are you good enough a lot? And it doesn't have to be that way. There's a better way to live, and it's life by your design. And the Bespoke Brain System gives you a roadmap on how to do that specifically for your bespoke brain. Because remember, no two brains are alike. Your brain patterning is unique. So you need a unique solution to teach yourself how to work with your owner's manual that you have created. All right, my friends, if you would like to learn more about Bespoke Brain System and how to navigate those waves of life, then at aprildarley.com, you can book a free consultation. I'll drop that in the show notes. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave a review and share with your friends. I would be so grateful because I want to help the world feel better, feel safe, feel secure. And the way that we do that is by getting the word out and learning that things don't have to stay the same and that we can be okay going with the flow. Until next week, my friends, I'll see you then. Bye bye.